On Ricky's first day as a delivery driver, his coworker handed him an empty water bottle. At first, Ricky thought his colleague was exaggerating, but after a full day of work, he realized his coworker wasn't wrong about how intense the job really was. He worked 14-hour days with barely any breaks. Even when he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, he didn't dare stop for a rest, because if he missed delivering a package on time, his pay for the day would be cut in half. If it weren't for his desperate situation, Ricky never would have taken this job. Ricky and his wife, Abbie, live in England. They have a son and a daughter, and their life was simple and happy. But after the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis, both of them lost their jobs and their house. They had no choice but to take on temp work. These jobs were short, flexible, and didn't come with a fixed employer. Of course, that meant no workers' compensation, no basic salary, and no guarantees. People call it the gig economy. Abbie works as a caregiver, looking after 7 or 8 elderly or disabled people a day. Ricky does odd jobs in construction and gardening. They've been renting homes for years, constantly at the mercy of landlords and often forced to move because of rising rent. Watching their kids grow up, Ricky knew this couldn't continue. He decided to find a way out. He needed to save enough for a down payment on a house. Through a friend, he found an opportunity to work as a delivery driver. The company manager explained the setup. It's a franchise system, no employment contract, only a franchise agreement. There's no fixed salary, the working hours are unpredictable, and pay is based on delivery fees, meaning the harder Ricky works, the more he earns.
You don't get hired here, you come on board. We like to call it onboarding. You don't work for us, you work with us. You don't drive for us, you perform services.
Being his own boss sounded perfect to Ricky. He'd heard from a friend that he could make £200 a day doing delivery work. Ricky was confident he could catch up in no time. Working 6 days a week, that's £1,200, more than he used to make in a whole month. But there was a catch. To do deliveries, you needed a van. Buying one would cost around £14,000. If he took out a loan, the down payment was £1,000, then £416 a month. Renting one from the company, that would be £65 a day, almost £400 a week. Clearly, buying made more sense. But they didn't even have £1,000 saved up. The only thing of value they owned was the car Abbie used for work. She needed it badly. Her job involved visiting several clients every day, and some lived far away. The company didn't cover transport, so without the car, she'd have to rely on buses, wasting time and energy. Abbie also had doubts about Ricky's new plan. If he worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, it meant he'd barely be around. He'd hardly see the kids. But Ricky had made up his mind. He promised, give him 12 months and he'd grow his delivery route, save up for a house deposit, and finally change things for the better. On his first day, Ricky was given a route and a scanner. The manager told him that once a package is in his van, it's his responsibility. It has to be delivered on time. The system tracks everything. And if he lost or damaged the scanner, he'd have to pay for it. That first day wasn't easy. He mixed up addresses, almost got a ticket from a traffic warden, and got into an argument with a customer, just because he was wearing a Manchester United shirt and the guy supported the local team. Still, none of it was a big deal. By the end of the day, he was completely worn out, but at least he made real money. Meanwhile, Abbie had to visit 7 different clients. Now that she didn't have a car, she was constantly rushing between appointments. Abbie was kind and patient. She cared for elderly and disabled people who had basically been left to the system. Even when her shift ended, if someone had an accident or needed help, she couldn't bring herself to just walk away. She'd stay and clean them up, even though she wouldn't get paid for the extra time. She worked from 7:30 in the morning until 9 at night, traveling from house to house, squeezing in calls to the kids during her bus rides, reminding them where dinner was, telling them to do their homework and go to bed on time. By the time she got home, she and Ricky were usually so tired they'd fall asleep on the couch. There wasn't much time left for their kids. Their son Seb was going through a rebellious phase. He skipped school and hung out with a group of friends who were into graffiti. They were all from struggling families, getting picked on at school. Graffiti became their way of expressing themselves. To buy spray paint, Seb sold the winter jacket his parents gave him. Ricky and Abbie were angry, but they didn't yell or punish him. When they got married, they made a promise. No shouting, no hitting, just open conversations. Abbie had grown up with an abusive father, and she was determined her children wouldn't go through the same thing. All they wanted was for their kids to go to college, find stable jobs, and not live the exhausting life their parents had. But Seb, he didn't believe school could change anything.
What, and be like Hawkman's brother, 57 grand in debt, and working in the call centre now, getting smashed every weekend just to forget his problems.
Some people are born with everything, while others struggle just to make ends meet. Seb feels like he's the latter. Life seems hopeless to him. What's the point of trying hard if it doesn't make a difference? On the other hand, their daughter Liza is very considerate. She understands how hard her parents work and rarely causes them any trouble. On weekends, she even helps her father deliver packages. Not only does she lighten his load, but her charm and quick would often earn her tips.